Good afternoon. I thought since it's after lunch I might start with a joke. And this one kills in the U.S., so we'll see how it does over here. A cowboy, a priest, and a scheduler all walk into a bar. The scheduler looks around and says, "Is this a progress bar?" No? Dang it. All right. Got my work cut out for me. Let's see. Here's the remote. Okay. So I'm from Colorado, Denver, Colorado in the U.S. I work for a company called Saunders Construction. Saunders Construction has been around since 1972. Annually, we do around 300 to 400 million. This year, because of the economy turning around, we're going to be pushing 450 million. A little over a year ago, I was hired on with Saunders as their scheduling manager. Saunders did not have a scheduler or a full-time planner of any kind. They had been using Primavera products, a little bit of P6. Primarily, they were using SureTrack. So it was time for them to make a selection. They had to update the software they were using, and Primavera SureTrack was not cutting the bill for them. They have a pretty diverse market. They're in commercial, healthcare, retail, express, and then we do all of our own concrete. So for a software that the scroll button on the mouse didn't even work, it was time in 2013 to upgrade. So it was my job, just hiring on with the company, to decide how much the company was going to spend on their next scheduling software. Obviously, I looked at P6. I was familiar with P6 from other companies. We looked at Microsoft Project because it was free. It came with our whole suite of Microsoft. And then we found out about Asta. Okay, for us, no one had ever heard of Asta. I had certainly not. And everyone I asked, all of my colleagues, all of my scheduling peers, have you ever heard of this Asta company? One person had. He had been over here in London for some type of trade show, and he had heard of Asta, or he at least remembered the logo. So I went to work with our local rep, Project Integration, who now supports Asta along with P6, and got a trial version and tried it out, and then got another trial version and tried it out some more. And what I found out was we could use P6 and stay in tune with everybody in the U.S., or we could try this Asta and take a leap of faith that Asta was going to be a better product than P6 to support our needs. So our needs, some of our recent projects, we do schools, we do hospitals, we built the IKEA that came to Denver. We've worked on sports stadiums. We've worked on football, American football, baseball, soccer fields. We also venture into the schools, a little bit of the heavy civil. But we wanted a product that we could pass along to our project managers, our superintendents, our project engineers, and they could use it on site. They didn't have to rely on someone like myself to do all their planning for them. So we found, after testing Asta and P6, I talked to many departments within our company, and what I found out is accounting was really going to be happy with Asta. As you all know, maybe there's some accountants in the room, that's right there the important thing, the dollar sign, right? The concurrent licensing is something that none of the other products offered us. We have Asta on over 200 machines, and we only have 30 licenses. So I can have up to 30 people out in the field using all at the same time. There's less training time, less of a training curve. For me, that was huge because I'm doing the majority of the training. For my accounting side, they liked not having our project managers and superintendents sitting in a classroom trying to learn this new software as long as it would take for P6. In past companies, training with P6 took days and days. With Asta, I can bring people in half a day, send them back out in the field, and they're already using it. So a huge advantage there. And my IT guys, a lot less time. Those of you who have ever tried to put P6 on your machine, it's a good solid half day, if not more. And of course, that would be my IT guys. So I got a little input from them. You can see that they are big fans of Asta. We have 2 licenses of P6, and it seems like every time we try to use them, they need to come in and help us do an update or fix something so that we can use P6 for that day. With Asta, we literally download it and install it within a matter of minutes. So these guys are real happy with Asta. The next group is my project engineers. Now, for those of you who aren't sure what a project engineer in the U.S. is, there's project manager, superintendent, there's dirt, and then there's the project engineer. Okay? They're that guy or gal on the job that get all the responsibilities no one else wants. For them, what they enjoy about Asta is they don't have to share. With a P6 license, it's usually on one machine on the job site. And if Bob wants to use it today, he has to jump on and use P6 and do his updating. And then Joe has to come in afterwards, and they all have to share a machine. With Asta, everybody gets their own copy. And with the concurrent licensing, actually, they can be on at the same time. It was easy to learn. Some of the project engineers that I deal with came from other companies and have been through days and weeks of training with P6, or maybe even P3. And then they come to one of my trainings, and within a few hours, they're picking up Asta. They're understanding it. Man, it's just like Microsoft Excel with the ribbons up above. And it's so intuitive. As soon as I show them how to make an assignment with a calendar, well, now they know how to make an assignment to everything else with a drag and drop feature. It's easy for them to use. I mean, it's something that they actually don't fear. They jump right on there, they start using the software, and then they start imagining other things that they can do to make their life a lot easier, start tracking submittals, start tracking product deliveries. Okay? It's easy to share files. We have some of them that have developed some product tracking or material tracking schedules. And once they have something that works, they share it with the rest of the projects. Within Saunders, we can have 30 to 40 different project sites going at once. So we have quite a few project engineers, and they all work together. They try not to reinvent the wheel every time. We can take a Asta file, throw it in an email, send it off to the next guy. With P6, a lot more difficult to share that template or that data with each other. And they're excited to schedule. I get people calling me up all the time saying, wow, my last job, they put me in charge of the schedule because I'm the bottom of the food chain. But here, I get to do the scheduling. I'm excited to do the scheduling. I get to be in charge of that, updating that schedule. The next group was the project managers. And of course, they like that concurrent licensing option. It's a lot cheaper to their bottom line on the project. It's easy for them to learn. It's easy for them to use. As a project manager, they're probably not on there very regularly. Maybe once a month they get into the software. And from month to month, it's easy for them to retain the training and the knowledge of how to use the software. Again, it's easy to share projects, project files. Some of our project managers are managing multiple projects at once. So if they have something that works or a schedule that works for them on one project, they can bring it with them to the other project and build that schedule over on project B to match what project A was. Construction managers. So in the org chart of Saunders, a project manager is above, a construction manager is above a project manager. And they're kind of a division manager, if you will. They have multiple projects underneath them. They can have upwards of 10, 20 projects that they're overseeing with a project manager on each project. So for those individuals, again, they get into the software once a month if they're lucky. But once they've been through training, it's easy for them to retain that knowledge. P6. Now I'm getting into the group of people who have worked their whole career with a Primavera product. Most likely it was P3. They come and learn Asta, and they're just thrilled to death. You know, they're the ones that give me the comments, why haven't we been using this sooner? Why doesn't P3 and P6 make it this easy? Why can't I just drag and drop over in those softwares? It's easy to share files again, multiple projects that they're dealing with. And at that summary level, it's easy for them to use. Now these guys right here, some of you might recognize them as the superintendents you have on your job. The crusty Carls that I like to call them sometimes. These are the guys who hate computers, right? These are the guys who still have the flip phone, right? Because their big thumbs don't work on the iPhone. Yeah, that was the group of individuals I had to really win over. Because in Saunders, or at Saunders, what they have decided is these guys are our scheduled champions on the job site. It's their plan, so it should be them in charge of the schedule. Now, that doesn't mean they're actually in the software updating the schedule every week or every month, but they need to be in charge, and they need to know what's going on in that plan and in that schedule that's going out. This particular individual, this is Bill Bialik, and he is our star superintendent when it comes to scheduling. When I first introduced him to Asta, he had nothing to do with it. Didn't want to learn the software, wasn't interested. We had a wrestling match and I won. So he started using the software, and now these are some of the comments I get from him and a few other superintendents. It's easy to learn. Again, this is a guy who has a flip phone, but he can sit down and start using Asta. And he does. He has our largest schedule in the company right now, and he gets in there and manages it every week, almost every day. When I go to my license manager app and I take a look at who's using the licenses, his name is always top of the list. So he's kind of my star, if you will. It's an easy tool, it makes my life easier. Okay? No more P6 Excel conflicts. Okay, so what that is we have a P6, typical in the U.S., you have a P6 schedule. That is your project schedule. Okay? But your 3-week look ahead, your 5-week look ahead, nobody likes getting into the project schedule and putting in that day-to-day detail. So we use Excel. And we put together these 3-week look aheads in Excel that can be pages long. Okay? Now we don't take that information and upload it into our P6 file. Again, it's that project engineer at the end of the month that has to take this stack of Excel files that these superintendents all put together, and he's got to go and decode the information and use it to update his P6 file. Now with Asta, it's becoming so much easier just to put that detail into the project schedule that they're using Asta to produce their look-ahead schedules, their 2-week, 3-week, 4-week look-aheads. Okay? I actually use this. I had to edit his quote just a little bit. As a superintendent, he used a few other colorful words with that. But the point is, he's actually using the software. And that's what the benefit is of Asta. Number one benefit that we're finding at Saunders is we've given the folks in the field a tool that they're going to use. Okay? I taught my foreman how to use Asta, and they use it every week. So not only is Bill the superintendent using it, but he's also trained his foreman. Okay? Now again, these are guys that we don't even give them phones. Okay? They get a tool bag and a hammer and a level and all that. But they are actually coming in from the field. They're sitting down at a computer, and they're using Asta to put together their look-ahead plan for their little section of work. Okay? They used to do it on grid paper, or they used Excel. But now on several of our jobs, the superintendents are taking the training they receive from me, taking it to the field and doing their own training with their own people. I guarantee that would never happen if we had chosen P6. Okay? For me, as the scheduling manager, as the guy in charge of making sure that we have a tool in place and that we have schedules in place that meet the contract requirements, that meet the specification requirements. Okay, why do I like Asta? It's easy to communicate. I've taught over 70 individuals in my company how to use it. Okay, the field staff are making time to plan their work more than they ever have. Asta removes that fear that I was talking about. They want to get in, they want to use their schedules. Okay, scheduling is no longer a required skill that they have to have. It's a desired skill that they want to have. Okay, our subs are starting to use Asta. We now have communication going back and forth between us and our subcontractors. I'm finding that we have better project plans. We're keeping better records. We're doing better management of our impacts and our delays, whether it's weather delays, RFIs, any kind of impact to our job we're getting in, we're tracking it in our schedule. And overall, we have better project management. Okay. Few quotes. Again, one of my other superintendents, I thought this was going to be hard. Why does P6 make it so difficult? Asta has just changed the whole entire environment in Saunders. People come to work for us brand new, and the first thing they hear about is this new software we're using called Asta. Our president, with Asta, we now have a very effective and efficient tool that is helping us achieve all of our goals and improving scheduling and planning throughout Saunders. We set some goals for ourselves a year ago. When we picked up Asta, we've exceeded all those goals within a year. And then from one of my project engineers, I see pride and excitement in individuals at Saunders in creating and maintaining their schedules. This was a company, before I started with them, that would build a $50 million job off of a 2-page milestone schedule. That was it, because no one wanted to get into SureTrack or P6 and spend any more time in there. Now I've got 3,000 plus activities for that same level of project. To show you some examples of what we're doing. Of how we're using Asta. I'm going to open up Bill's schedule, that superintendent that I showed you there with the beard. He is a big fan of summary bars. As you can see here, big fan of summary bars. Very big fan. Okay? But it's been very effective for him using summary bars. He has a tremendous amount of subcontractors on his job. His job is very complex. They're remodeling the student center on one of the campuses, one of the universities there in Colorado. He's got 9 different areas and 3 different floors that he's trying to keep track of. And he likes the fact that he can click a button on one of those summary bars and get this 3,000 activities of schedule down to a half a dozen. Okay? He also likes using the activity codes of the subcontractors. Okay? He comes down, let me come down to an area here. He'll come down to an area where he's got multiple subs working in that area, and he will show in a look-ahead schedule who's got what, where they're working. He shows the colors by subcontractor. I'll open up that folder here. You can see all of the subs that he has on his job. Everybody has his colors. Okay, I don't know what ASR did, but he made them pink. He must have made them mad. But what that's allowed him to do is he can do a 2-week look ahead using the time slicing, right? Here's the next 2 weeks what we're going to be doing, and everybody has their own color. So he doesn't have to use up the paper space with another column outlining who's doing what and who's assigned to what activity. They can just look at their color and go find their pink or their blue stripes and know that these are their activities. Where are they supposed to be? When are they supposed to be there? Okay? Another project that we have going is our triangle building. Now that one has multiple floors to it. This is again another, what I think is a good use of the summary bars. With the Primavera products, in order to get this level of organization, we have to use activity codes. Assigning activity codes one after another gets tedious. What my guys are liking is that they can build something into level 10 and decide, oh, that's in the wrong place, or I need to switch that to a different summary bar. They can just drag and drop it up there. They don't have to go into some code library and reassign codes to get it to pop up under level 9. You can just grab it and drag it up there. Let's see, our Avery Brewing. I just put that up there just to brag that we're doing a brewery. We're actually got 2 of them now. With my name, I'm hoping we get a distillery next, right? On this job, a good example of how we're using the histograms. We're assigning resources to all of our individual laborers, carpenters, some of our field staff here. Here's an example of what we're doing. So we use resources for our carpenters, for our concrete layout guys, project managers, superintendents, labor foremen. Then we make assignments to our self-performed concrete that we're doing. We'll assign those individuals, and we can create a histogram there giving us a look ahead of how much manpower we need coming up. So we take our multiple projects. We might have half a dozen or more projects that we're doing concrete on, our own concrete. We'll do histograms like this, and then we'll chart over the next 6 months, what are we looking at for manpower? Do we need 20 carpenters? Do we need 80 carpenters? Typically, this time of year, we're pretty low. But as we get into the summer months, into July and August, that's usually when we peak out. So this helps us now. Now, this isn't anything we couldn't be doing in the other software. But as easy as it is to do in Asta, I don't have to do this for my project teams. They do it themselves. And it takes me very little time to train them how to do this. Typically, what I give them is a template. And we'll open this one up a little further. So I will give each of my teams a template that they can use that will come preloaded with the resources, the costs, along with each of those resources. Each of those carpenter labor layout, they have a cost associated with them. So not only can we get a manpower projection, we can get a cost projection. Calendars is a big thing for us as well. Some of our jobs do a 4-day work week. They work 4 10s. Typical is a 5-day work week. We do have times when we got to work Saturdays. We have times when we got to work Saturdays and Sundays. So we utilize the calendars, individual calendars, to make those assignments. Those are all preloaded in the template that I give them. So when they're ready to start a new job, they take the template, they fire it up, and 90% of what they need for that job is ready to go, and they can start building a project. Most times, I'm not even involved until they get to final review. At that point, I'll come in and review the schedule for open ends and bad ties and some of the scheduling 101 mistakes that get made. I also do a review of our contract and our specifications. But what this has done then is allowed the project teams, those 30, 35 project teams that are out there right now, to do 90% of their own scheduling work without having to rely on a resource like myself to come in and do all of their planning for them. They can do it themselves, which takes the ownership out of my hands and it puts the ownership in their hands. So that was a very quick 30 minutes. I'm just warmed up. 30 minutes was real quick for me to give you an example of what we're doing in the U.S. But as you can see, I'm very excited about Asta. I'm glad we found it. I'm glad I didn't have to go to my accounting department a year from now, or today, a year from when I decided to make a selection. I'm glad I don't have to go back to them now and say, P6 was the right choice to spend 3 times more money on it. That was the right choice. They come to me now and say, wow, man, Asta's really what we wanted. My superintendents are excited. The president of the company is excited. So I want to thank Asta for giving me the opportunity to come over here and meet with you to present what we're doing in the U.S. I'm very excited about it. And I look forward to having more company in my field, in my Asta users group in the U.S. So thank you.